She had packed hope in her suitcase, but life had other plans. Evelyn Carter thought she was finally stepping into the light she had chased for a decade. Promotion to National Art Director. Instead, she was shown the door with a generic farewell email. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She drove. Somewhere, anywhere. And that's how she found herself in Willow Creek, beneath a stormy sky, beside a broken-down car, and across from a man who looked like he belonged in another century. His name was Nathan Cole. And nothing in her life would ever be the same again. Evelyn was the kind of woman who curated beauty for a living. Art was more than her profession. It was her language. Her apartment overflowed with watercolors and half-finished canvases, evidence of a soul always reaching. For 10 years, she'd clawed her way up the ladder in the chaotic world of advertising. Tireless, precise, brilliant. That morning, she'd worn her best navy blazer, rehearsed her thank you speech in the mirror, and smiled at every colleague she passed. She truly believed she was about to be rewarded for her loyalty and genius. But the only thing waiting for her was a locked conference room and a cold voicemail. "We're restructuring. Your position has been dissolved. Security will assist you with your belongings." So she drove. Rain fell in sheets, like the sky was grieving with her. Somewhere between the chaos of Los Angeles and the oblivion of Nevada, Evelyn took a detour and landed in Willow Creek. Willow Creek wasn't on any of Evelyn's maps. The detour signs, the storm, and the sudden road closure felt almost like fate forcing her off the interstate. She drove past rolling hills, ghostly barns, and misty trees until a wooden sign announced the town's name. Then the engine coughed once, twice, and died completely. She coasted into town and parked near a small cafe called the Magnolia Table. The town smelled like cinnamon and wet pine. A chalkboard read, "Hot cider and homemade pie." She was soaking wet and numb, but the scent pulled her in. Inside it was warmth incarnate. Wooden beams, a roaring fireplace, and a kind-eyed woman behind the counter. "You look like you've met the sky's worst mood," the woman said with a soft southern lilt. "I think I did," Evelyn replied. That's where she met Nathan Cole. He walked in carrying a toolbox and a lopsided grin. Tall, with rolled-up sleeves and hands that had clearly built things, and maybe broken a few hearts. Heard a stranger's car gave up outside. "I'm your local miracle worker," he said. Evelyn didn't smile right away. She'd seen too many charming men with easy lines. But Nathan didn't press. He simply nodded and stepped back outside to look at her car. She followed, unsure why. "Alternator's gone. Won't find a replacement till Monday," he said, wiping his hands. "That long?" she asked. "'Fraid so. You'll need a place to stay." That's how Evelyn Carter became a guest at the Willow Creek Inn. The room smelled like lavender and nostalgia. The walls were lined with vintage wallpaper. Outside, the storm had passed, but inside Evelyn's chest, a new storm was brewing, quiet and unfamiliar. She didn't know it yet, but her life had just split in two. Everything before Nathan Cole and everything after. She spent the next day wandering the village. It wasn't just the buildings that felt old. It was the people, the pace, the silence between conversations. It was beautiful and unsettling. She hadn't slowed down in 10 years. Here time felt like it listened. She found a bookstore with actual dust jackets. A boy with freckles helped her find a poetry collection. He said, "Nathan likes this one," before darting away. Evelyn blinked. Nathan again. That evening, she sat in the inn's garden, surrounded by magnolias. And then, he appeared again. "You survived the bakery," he teased, sitting beside her. "They gave me 4 muffins," she said. "Ah, the locals have adopted you. That's rare." They talked about art, about storms, about nothing and everything. He never mentioned his past. She didn't ask. But something in his eyes said he was hiding whole chapters of his story. That night, Evelyn painted for the first time in months. And for the first time in years she felt peace. The next morning, Evelyn awoke to the sound of birds and the scent of coffee drifting through the window. Downstairs, the innkeeper handed her a note scribbled on brown paper. "Meet me by the bridge. Nathan." She found him near the wooden bridge at the edge of town, skipping stones across the creek like a boy. "You looked like you needed air," he said. "I didn't sleep much," she admitted. "You're thinking too loud." She laughed. It was the first real laugh in weeks. They spent the day together. Nathan showed her the flower fields beyond the hills, the forgotten chapel with stained glass that caught fire in the sun. They stopped at a diner for milkshakes. At one point their hands brushed and lingered. But that night, Evelyn found herself staring at a locked door inside the inn. She asked the owner, "What's in there?" The woman hesitated. "That used to be Nathan's father's room. He died 5 years ago." Evelyn didn't ask more, but the silence that followed stayed with her. The next few days passed like pages in a novel neither of them wanted to end. Evelyn sketched every morning by the window. Nathan would drop by, always bringing something. Coffee, wildflowers, a new joke. But Willow Creek wasn't just picturesque. Held secrets. One evening, she followed Nathan after dinner. He didn't see her. He walked past the town's edge and into the woods. She stayed hidden behind trees, watching as he knelt by an old gravestone. When he left, she approached. The name read, Caroline Cole, beloved sister, 1987 to 2015. The next day, Evelyn confronted him gently. "You lost someone." Nathan didn't deny it. "My sister. She died in a crash. I was driving." The silence afterward was heavy. "I left my job in the city. I couldn't face the noise. So I came back here to fix things. Things I can't fix." Evelyn reached for his hand. He let her. That night it rained again. And inside the inn, Evelyn kissed Nathan for the first time. It wasn't fireworks. It was something softer, like being seen for the first time in a long time. But just as things began to settle, Evelyn's phone rang. It was her old boss. "We made a mistake," the voice said. "The promotion is yours if you want it. We want you back in New York." Monday morning, Evelyn stood in silence, staring at the rain outside. She didn't tell Nathan. Not yet. Instead, she painted a portrait of the creek. Of him. The next day, Nathan took her on a surprise picnic. They sat near the edge of a hill, the entire village beneath them like a living painting. "You ever think about starting over?" he asked. "All the time," she whispered. But she still didn't tell him about New York. She was torn between the life she had built and the life she had just discovered. And fate, ever the mischievous artist, was far from done. Evelyn stood at the window, watching the rain pour down in sheets, blurring the line between reality and the dreams she had been chasing for so long. Her phone lay on the table next to her, the voice of her former boss still ringing in her ears. "We made a mistake. The promotion is yours if you want it. We want you back in New York. Monday morning." The words seemed distant now, as though they belonged to someone else. But the weight of them was impossible to ignore. The future she'd always worked toward was now within her grasp. The city, the prestige, the recognition. It was everything she'd ever imagined. And yet, as she stood in the quiet of Willow Creek, everything felt different. The storm outside mirrored the chaos inside her chest. Nathan had disappeared that morning, leaving a note with only a single line. "I'll be back later. Nathan." The words were simple, but they carried so much weight. He had always been so gentle, so careful with her heart. She wondered if he even knew the storm he had started inside her. He never asked her to stay, never made promises. But she could see it in his eyes, the same longing that mirrored her own. She walked down to the garden, the air crisp with the scent of rain and magnolia. She had never wanted anything so much in her life. Something simple, something real. A life built on love, not ambition. But could she leave it all behind? Was she really willing to give up the life she had worked so hard for in exchange for something she couldn't quite define? Her heart raced as she walked toward the edge of the hill. The village sprawled beneath her like a tapestry woven by fate. She spotted Nathan in the distance, sitting by the creek, his back to her. The weight of the moment was almost too much to bear. Without thinking, she crossed the distance between them, her feet carrying her faster than her thoughts. When she reached him, she hesitated. His face was serene, but his eyes, they held something more, a story he hadn't yet told. "Nathan," her voice cracked. He turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "Evelyn," he said softly, "I was waiting for you." Her pulse quickened, but she forced herself to calm down. "I don't know what to do anymore." "You don't have to decide right now," Nathan said gently, standing up. "I never wanted to be the reason you didn't chase your dreams. But I don't want you to leave here without knowing what's in your heart." Evelyn took a deep breath, staring at the creek below. The sound of the water flowing over stones felt like an anchor, grounding her in this moment. "I thought I knew who I was, Nathan," she whispered. "I thought I knew where I was going. But now, I'm not so sure anymore." He took her hand, his touch steady and warm. "You don't have to have all the answers. Just listen to your heart. It'll tell you what you need to know." The quiet between them grew heavy with meaning, the weight of everything they hadn't said hanging in the air. The future stretched out before them, uncertain and fragile, like a story still being written. And then, in the softest of voices, Nathan asked, "Stay with me." The words hung in the air, and for a moment, time itself seemed to pause. Evelyn closed her eyes, letting the wind kiss her face. She felt the years of exhaustion, the burden of always striving for more, lift off her shoulders. It wasn't about the promotion, the city, or the things she had worked so hard to build. It was about love, peace, and a place where she could finally breathe. Her decision wasn't easy. It would never be. But with Nathan's steady gaze on her, Evelyn found her answer. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper, but full of conviction. "Yes, I'll stay." And with that, the storm inside her heart finally calmed. The following weeks were filled with new beginnings. Evelyn stayed in Willow Creek, where she painted every day and rediscovered the art of living without the constant hum of ambition in her ears. She found joy in the small things: sunsets by the creek, quiet mornings spent with Nathan, and evenings filled with laughter. Nathan never pressured her to stay. He never asked her to make promises she couldn't keep. He simply let her be. And in that space, Evelyn found her true self. Her art flourished, inspired by the quiet beauty of Willow Creek, and slowly, she began to share it with the world again. Not through the lens of ambition or a corporate job, but through a genuine desire to touch people's hearts. The paintings she created became her voice, and with each stroke, she told a story of love, loss, and redemption. And as for Nathan, he was always there, a constant, steady presence. But it was more than that. He became her home, the place where her heart felt safe, the place where she was finally free to be who she had always wanted to be. They never spoke about New York again. The city that had once seemed so important now felt distant, like a memory that had faded into the background. Evelyn had found a new path, one she hadn't expected, but one that had always been waiting for her. A path where love was the true reward, and where every decision made in the quiet of Willow Creek brought her closer to the life she had always dreamed of. The end. Or perhaps just the beginning.